Hey, chiropractic students and recent grads, how successful could you be if you had a resource that clarified your vision, helped you develop a plan, saved you money, time, and heartache, shortened your learning curve, and helped you become profitable your first few months after opening? The Chiro Planner is here. More than just a journal, it's a guide to creating and launching your chiropractic practice in 100 days. It's jam-packed with tools, tips, ideas, action steps, resources, and inspiring quotes from some of the top chiropractors and entrepreneurs in the world today. Think of it as your own personal mentor, inspiring you, answering your questions, helping you to set goals, and advising you on the many unknowns of opening a practice. Go to www.chiroplanner.com today and save 40% by taking advantage of pre-launch pricing.
Welcome to the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day.
Yes, I am Dr. Richard Day, and this is the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast. Hey there. So good to talk to you again. I love that you spend some of your time with me. I know I love spending it with you. Well, today on the show, I've got Dr. Noel Lloyd. And before I go too far on this, I want to tell you, I had some problems with my microphone. The guest sounds great, but the audio quality of my voice isn't up to snuff, and I just want to apologize. It is listenable, though, and the content, and especially the speaker, since his voice sounds really, really good, the content is really worth your time. So with that said, I want to introduce the guest. This is Dr. Noel Lloyd, and he graduated from Palmer College of Chiropractic in 1971 and founded Sound Chiropractic Centers in his home state of Washington. Dr. Lloyd now heads up 5-Star Management and the New Patient Academy, supporting chiropractors around the world. The Chiropractor's Guide, 56 Proven Ways to Help More People Have More Fun and Make More Money, is available on Amazon.com. Welcome, Dr. Noel Lloyd.
Hey, welcome.
Hey there, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us today.
I'm just doing great. I've really been looking forward to this.
Oh, I have as well. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. Before we get started, I invite you to jump in there and fill in any of the gaps in your bio I may have missed. I know there's got to be plenty. We'll probably get into some of those later, but
probably some of the most important things is a number of years ago, decades ago, I had a career-ending injury, and I had to make a decision. Was I going to be in chiropractic or not? Because I couldn't physically adjust anymore. A neurosurgeon said that I was going to have a bi-level fusion. My chiropractors, my best friends and buddies in the profession said there was no way I could continue to adjust the way that I did. And I made a decision to hire and develop associates. And instead of having one practice that was admittedly a great practice, I was able to hire associates, develop them, build 10 successful clinics, and sell them to my associates, most of whom are still friends to this day. And that really, really shaped probably the last 3 decades so strongly. And so that would be a big, big piece in my bio.
Wow. Well, we'll definitely talk about that more. You know, I own 2 clinics, and I can't imagine owning 10 and the challenges that go along with that. So I'm looking forward to talking to you a little bit more about that. Before we get into that, though, what made you decide to become a chiropractor in the first place?
Well, I had an injury when I was about 5 years old. I fell off the monkey bars, had a concussion. I got sick. The doctor said he's going to be okay. Just watch him. And for a year, I was sick. And eventually, a woman, I don't know who, my mother can't remember who, talked my mom and my grandmother into taking me to a chiropractor. And I got a chiropractic adjustment, and it was one of those miracle things. It was Palmer, upper cervical specific. It was a toggle adjustment. I remember hating getting adjusted, but my first adjustment really, really got me back on track. And I became a chiropractic patient at 5 or 6. And at age 11, my dad said I wasn't too young. I was driving home from the chiropractor, and my dad said, "Hey, Noel, you're not too young to think about what you might want to do for a career." And I thought, I am too. I'm 11. So my dad said I could help people, I could be my own boss, I could make a good living, and I should consider being a chiropractor. Now, since my dad never gave advice I just said, "Oh, okay," and that was it. And I remember, though, I was sitting at a friend's dining room table with his family for dinner, and his father was an orthopedic surgeon. And he said, "Why don't you take this chiropractic thing all the way, Noel, and become a physical therapist?" And I remember how angry I was. And I didn't know why I was angry, except that I knew that chiropractic was so much more than physical therapy. So I went to Palmer College, graduated about 1 million years ago.
And the rest is history, so they say.
That's right.
Well, bring us up to speed on your current business. I know right now what you are operating is 5-Star Management. What is that all about?
Well, 5-Star Management was really developed inside my clinics. I started coaching people. I would speak at some of the larger seminar systems and really enjoyed teaching. But where I really cut my teeth and earned my stripes was coaching my associates. Inside 5-Star Management is the guts of the Sound Chiropractic Center Associate Development System. And I developed lots of associates to high numbers. That's the reason the clinics were so successful. So at 5-Star, our emphasis now is helping successful chiropractors find and develop associates in a win-win relationship that can go on for decades, where everybody wins. The associate wins, the clinic director wins, everybody gets the help that they want, the freedom that they're looking for, and the great incomes that they should have. Now, that's what 5-Star focuses on. But there's another company, and it's called the New Patient Academy, and it's a spinoff from 5-Star. And if you want to have a big practice, you need to have new patients. And the chiropractors have called me for a period of about 30 years trying to figure out how to get new patients. So we finally developed a company called the New Patient Academy, which teaches specifically how to work with external marketing people so that they can produce new patients while the doctor stays back in the clinic taking care of the patients. And the new patient assistant is out in the community.
Yeah, I find that from the people that I talk to in my own personal experience, really the doctor needs to be the one out in the community talking to the people and making the connections. There's just something about it that I think is so genuine and authentic, and it's just not the same if a representative from the company goes out and does that for the doctor. Would you agree with that?
I totally disagree.
So you put the people out. You have someone go out you hire them and they go out and do it for you?
Yeah. Now, so let's take a look at this. You get a successful chiropractor, and he or she gets up to a certain volume, and they're a full-time manager, a full-time trainer. They are a full-time chiropractor, and they want to grow the practice. And I'll tell you, it's my experience that marketing just falls off the back of the stove. It not only goes to the back burner, it goes off the back of the stove. The number one reason that chiropractic practices suffer in the United States is not enough new patients. And I only meet, last weekend, I met one of 2 chiropractors with a marketing degree out of maybe 1,000 chiropractors that I've spoken to. Chiropractors are great chiropractors, but typically not very good marketers. And if you ask 100 chiropractors, what would you rather do? Take care of patients or go out and do external marketing? The vast majority, maybe 100%, would say I'd rather take care of patients. But here's what I found. I used to be a really, really good marketer. In fact, I still am, and look forward to doing that. But I also found that I could find people and train them how to do that, and they would produce new patients. Literally, this is no joke, and this is not hyperbole, and this is not exaggeration. In one 31-day period, my clinics put 601 new patients through the door in those clinics. Now, that was only 5 clinics plus 1 affiliated clinic at the time. And we did that with community outreach assistants, COAs. Now, we did it also with my associate doctors who were involved. And of course, the doctor has a really, really good presence in the community and commands more authority than an assistant. But given a chance, wouldn't you like to have somebody who's out in the community producing new patients that come in looking forward to seeing you, already respecting chiropractic and looking forward to a great experience? And I think most doctors would like that if they thought they could get it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess if they felt that they could find someone who could go out there and do as good a job as them, and at least in terms of communicating chiropractic to the public, that would probably be of a huge benefit to that doctor.
And here's what I found out, is that I found a way that I could test for and I could find and hire people who were temperamentally set up to do this job. People who could take a script and a very simple demonstration, and there's 3 or 4 different things that they can do. We just have to train them and to make sure that they understand how the systems work, walk through it with them until they get it right, and then they can produce, well, one young woman working for one of my clients, and this is, again, it's no joke, it's not hyperbole, it's not an inflated number, put 626, that's 626 new patients in his clinic all by herself while working with a marketing team. But my client was in the office. He never went out of the office. Now, it's not always 50 a month, but most chiropractors can't even handle an extra 5 new patients a week. Most chiropractors can't even handle an extra 5 new patients a week. If you've got a 30 patient visit average and you get an extra 5 new patients a week, week after week after week, that's an extra 150 visits. And most doctors aren't set up to handle that. So
do you have a strategy for streamlining and coming up with the systems, putting those in place to handle that capacity?
I do. I do. Funny you should ask. So here's the thing I've found is that at 75% capacity, it's hard to grow. So let's say that you and I are jogging and running, and my heart rate is at 90% capacity, and yours is at 50. You're looking forward to the next mile or 2 or 3 or 4, and I'm looking for a park bench, maybe even an aid car. And so if doctors find themselves at high capacity, they run into inefficiency. It's no longer any fun. Now, that's why I teach doctors not only how to streamline, but probably to add an associate into that practice. And especially if you're really, really good at getting new patients, then you can plug the associate into your marketing, and the associate starts to get busy right away. It's very, very exciting for them. And the practice literally takes off like a rocket. Now, we work in our training at 5-Star at helping doctors streamline day 1, streamline day 2, streamline and be very, very efficient, not impersonal, but very efficient with handling patients during what we call power hours, and then also being very efficient at our reevaluations so that one doctor can work at capacity, and capacity means that he never cheats his technique. He doesn't go faster than the technique requires. But some doctors can see 10 an hour, some see 12 an hour, some see a couple times that. But they have an excellent clinical experience while their associate is also doing the same. I mean, that's the way that 5-Star Management and the New Patient Academy works together to help doctors build their practices.
So have you ever seen a situation like this? Because we've seen this in our clinics. So you have your initial associate working and you say, this guy's at capacity. Like you said, let's bring in someone else. And let's say, for example, we choose to pay that person a base salary of $40,000 a year. That person needs to be at least billing that $40,000 to be paying their own salary. And we do a base plus bonus. Is there I don't know how to say this, is there a sweet spot in terms of compensation to have that make sense?
Well, let's go back, and I'm going to tell you something that we do all the time. We train our new patient, we train our associates on how to produce their own new patients. Now, I believe that that's something that they're going to need to learn, whether they're with me 2 years or 20 years. They're going to need to learn how to produce new patients. If they aren't developed in that particular area, then they're left disabled and a drain on the clinic. And when we do that correctly, and we train them how to do a strong day 1 and a strong day 2, we see associates paying for themselves. I mean, real cash money in the door, equal to their paycheck or better in the first 30 to 60 days. In other words, the associate never costs the clinic director any money, but they're also involved in something that's super exciting and motivating for the associate. If an associate thinks that he or she is stuck at $40,000 and then has to go through this impossible gauntlet in order to be able to get to bonus, that's not only demotivating, but I mean, the energy is really, really down on that. Now, that means that you front load this really, really well. And that's one of the things we train people to do. Now, I think I try to see my associates in their first year with base and bonus, and your 40,000 isn't off. It depends on where you are, though. There are areas where the base has to be higher, but base against a bonus, you can have an associate doing $65, $75, even $85,000 and earning every penny of it in their first year.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. I've seen, like you said, it's geographic or regional. It really depends on a lot of different factors. And especially, I think, for the associate, for example, one of our clinics is in Colorado, and that's a highly sought after place to live. And people come right out of school and think it's beautiful. There's mountains. I want to live there. And I understand. I lived there for years, but it's also got a high cost of living associated with it. So, things have to be at a certain point to make sense for that associate, or they may not realize it till they move out there and think, wow, my monthly bills are expensive. And you also have to look at what reimbursements are. And I guess in your model, I didn't ask this question. Are you cash based, or are you also in the insurance networks, or both?
It's both. I have a number of doctors, in fact, more and more every year, that when the marketing works well, when you can produce all the new patients that you want, then you're much, much stronger. And if you choose, have a better opportunity to go to cash. So I have people who used to be insurance go to cash, and so we have a higher percentage of that. But I also believe that when people have good insurance, and let's say you're an insurance office and you want to be a 5-star management client, the only insurance I might even suggest that you reconsider is the one that absolutely abuses you. And there are insurance companies that doctors gladly drop, but they don't drop them until the new patient thing works. Because if you're going to change your hours, change your way that you bill, or change anything in the office, you just want to make sure you cover it with a lot of new patients.
Gotcha. Well, I want to shift gears and talk about, you've got a book that I mentioned in the intro where you lay out 56 different ways that the chiropractor can go out and find to help more people really and have more fun at the office. And we don't have time, unfortunately, because of the format of the show, to get into all 56. But I do want to hit some of the nuts and bolts of really what it is that you teach people to do. But before I do that, I want to share with everyone listening today a testimonial that is on your website. It's from a Dr. Bodie Dorrance, and he writes that he called you just to check out 5-star, and you challenged him to increase his practice visits by 25 a week as a new 5-star client. And he took that challenge, signed up with you guys, and he said he had 28 new patient signups before 7 p.m. That's remarkable to me. And I know everyone listening right now wants to know, how is this done? So again, we don't have all the time in the world, but can you share at least some of those nuggets that take us through the steps of what you do?
Well, first of all, when Bodie signed up, he was a nice guy and also agreed to take action. No change, no success. And so I started to ask him some questions. And it just so happened that night he had a new patient orientation class. Now, he was a good speaker. And I said, do you do an offer? He said, yes, I do. I said, we're going to tweak your offer a little bit. I'm going to send you a handout. And what we're going to do is we're going to, with a tweak offer and a one-time opportunity to sign up friends and family, Now, from that night, he would probably get 4, 5, 6, 7 new patient signups. He had this new thing. He had this handout. He sent it out. He got 28 people signed up. Now, that week, he had 7 new additional patients. I'm not exactly sure what happened after that. I think he got another 7 off that 28. Not everybody ended up coming in, but he was absolutely hooked. What 5-Star was doing for him from day one, there was nothing you could tell that guy other than 5-Star works miracles. And so it was really, really fun working with him. It doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah, it's just like patience. Not everyone gets the one magic adjustment, and that takes care of it. I understand that. So I guess let's look at me. I'm a average practitioner, and I have some great days and some not so great days. Where would you start with me if I came to you and I said, hey, I'm at about 20 patients a day, but I would like to see more?
Well, I would, we go to work on 3 things right away. Your chiropractic philosophy, that's the rocket fuel that's going to power your practice. Your vision for practice. I want to see what you'd love. When I speak to people considering taking them on as clients, I'd say, imagine it's 3 years from now, and you've got a smile on your face that we can't even wipe off because the practice is doing so well. How many visits are you seeing? What's your team like? What's your marketing like? And so you and I are going to design a practice vision that's attractive. You've got to have something that's exciting and also doable, and where you see yourself winning in order for number 3 to fit into place, and that would be your goals. Now, listen, and this is where the magic comes from. A strong philosophy, a clear vision, and good goals actually pick the right action steps. And whenever I find somebody who's stuck, somebody who's demotivated, somebody who's burnt out, it's either a philosophy problem, a vision problem, or a goals problem. And I also would probably explain to you 3, 4, 5, 6 other people I'm coaching right now who used to be at 20 visits a week and now are at 60, a day, who are now at 60 visits a day, have 1 or 2 associates in their practice. Everybody everybody's helping people. Everybody's having vacation like they'd like to have it. And everybody's making great money. I would also introduce you to those people at my live training, or I would do a hot seat where I bring one of those people up. And then you would see it and you think, I can do this. I mean, these are wonderful people, but they're no more wonderful than me. So I think that that's the way you rejuvenate the chiropractor who's maybe gone a little bit flat, maybe had their dreams beat up and tarnished a bit.
So when you're working with chiropractors and you're listening to the way they speak to their patients, do you give them scripts? Do you have specific things you want them to say, or do you have general guidelines for the message they should be telling people in their own words?
Well, that's a very good question. I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything in a chiropractic office. There's a right way to answer the phone, and then there's a wrong way to answer the phone. The wrong way to answer the phone would be, what the heck do you want, right? And the right way to answer the phone would be, Sound Chiropractic Center, Mandy speaking, I can help you. And there's a right way for a doctor to frame the relationship of doctors and patients and what we're going to do at the clinic. And this script, I ask every single one of my clients to memorize, and I want them to use it in part or in full. And my associates had to memorize this 100% word perfect. Would you like me to share it with you?
I would love it.
So I would say, Dr. Day, before we get started, let me tell you how we do things here. First of all, I only have 2 concerns. Number 1, what's wrong? And number 2, can chiropractic help you? Now, I'm a real stickler for detail, and I'm going to ask you lots of questions. What I'm looking for are good, concise answers. When we're done talking, if I think I can help you, I'll tell you. And if I think that I can't, I'll try to find someone who can. I'm also concerned about cost containment. I'm sure you are. I never recommend tests, x-rays, or any chiropractic care unless it's absolutely necessary. Finally, and I think most importantly, I believe in teamwork between doctors and patients. I think that's the reason we get the good results that we do here, is because we ask our patients to work with us just like a team. And Dr. Day, if I accept your case, I'm also going to ask you to work as hard as I do, and I'm a real hard worker. Can I count on you for that?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
So can I unpack that just for a minute?
Yeah, please do.
So the only two things the patient is concerned about when they come in is, number one, what's wrong, and number two, can you help me? Then I'm going to frame the relationship. I'm a stickler for detail. I'm going to ask you lots of questions, and I'm looking for concise answers. Have you ever been on one of those runaway stagecoach consultations?
I have.
I think we all have, right?
Mm-hmm.
That at least gives me the authority, if I need to remind them about the concise answers. And then, if I can help you, I'll tell you. If I can't, I'm going to try to find someone who can. I've had people, you watch their shoulders relax, their face softens. One guy said to me, he looked me right in the eye and he smacked the table and he said, "I'm in the right place." Because patients want to know that you're going to put their best interests before your own. Mm-hmm. And then I talk about money in exactly the way every patient wants you to talk about money. I'm going to spend your money carefully. I'm going to spend it just as carefully as I'd spend my own. I'm not going to do anything that's unnecessary. And then I frame the relationship. And the relationship is, we work together as a team. And I'm going to ask you to work as hard as I do. Now, if I accept your case, can I count on you for that? Now, that puts me in the position of the acceptor and then of the position of the asker. And it frames you, the doctor, as the leader, and it frames the patient as the follower. And it's the start of a beautiful relationship. I mean, if you do this correctly, then it becomes an affirmation. It becomes patient education. You have to make sure that you follow this up with some good procedures and a good care plan. But a patient who listens to that and agrees to that has got a much, much higher chance of a good clinical outcome, as well as being a treat to deal with.
Yeah, I really like the way you laid that out and what you're saying, and I'll tell you why. It's very similar to to what I say to my patients, and I've developed it really on my own. I've heard other people give different ideas, and I guess I've probably incorporated some of that into my own report of findings. But it's validating to me because it lets me know that I think I'm saying the right things, and I think I've developed it for probably the same reasons that you have. Number one, you do get those people that are sort of the runaway freight train that just go on and on and on. And as much as I'd like to spend all day with a patient, you just can't. And so you do need to direct them as to how much time you have. And really, we're trying to get to the root of the problem. And the other thing I like is that you are partnering on the same side as the patient, as it's you and them against that health concern. Exactly.
And we've got to work together as a team. And, I'll go and harvest that. I'll harvest that in the future, and I'll remind the patient. Now, I'm on their side. I'm their coach. I'm their patient. I'm their teacher. I'm their doctor. And I'll remind them about the teamwork that's required. And I'll harvest that concept later in several different key areas.
Yeah, I do it typically. I don't know if you do, but it goes to compliance. Hey, how's those stretches I gave you? Are you making those dietary changes we talked about? And I gently remind them that the people that get better the quickest are the ones that work with me.
That's right.
And I guess lastly, the thing I really liked about it, it's brief. I find as in the last 5 years even, attention spans are way down. People have a lot on their mind, their budget, their kids, whatever's going on in their life, and you just don't have that long to keep their interest. So I really like how brief you were and right to the point and said exactly what needed to be said.
And one of the things that we need to remember is that patients are giving us their best decisions in the first 3 days. After 5 days in a chiropractic office, the patient thinks that they know everything about who you are and what you do, And if you don't help them make good decisions about following you and your leadership and their followership at the very, very start, it's so hard to come back from that.
Well, let's talk a little bit. I guess let's look at some specific advice for two different kinds of practitioners. And I know you've talked to both. But the first one would be the new doc, the person who's just getting ready to graduate or has graduated in the last year and is really unsure of their path. If you could only give them a single piece of advice, what would that be?
Find the practice of your dreams. In other words, speak to your technique teachers and say, who's got the best activator practice? Who's got the best CBP practice? Who's got the best diversified practice that you know? And then go visit that practice and see what it looks like. I was speaking at the IFEC, which is the Paris Chiropractic College, and I asked 125 students, how many of you have seen the practice of your dreams? 2 people raised their hands. And then I asked them this, how can you go out and find or build the practice of your dreams unless you've seen it? So do road trip, right? And line up 3 or 4 or 5 clinics. And if it means that you borrow a couple $100 from mom and dad and there's 5 kids in a car, that's great. Or you make the journey from wherever to wherever and then associate with somebody with the guarantee from the clinic director that they will train you. And they need to train you in 3 things. They need to train you in the technique, because nobody graduates from school as technically competent as they'd like to be. Patient management, helping patients stay in a good chiropractic care plan. And number 3, how to produce new patients and get training in that. So you and I both know this is true. If you are the best chiropractor on the planet, but you suck at getting new patients, you're going to have a terrible, rough, disappointing, rotten road. But even if you are an average chiropractor, but you just get lots of great training on how to get new patients, chiropractic all by itself is so wonderful that you're going to have a great practice and people are going to think you're a super person. So don't dodge that new patient training. When new patients work, everything else works. When new patients don't work, nothing else works. That's my...
And that's great advice. I think both of those, you got to have the new patients and definitely go out and shadow someone who is doing what it is. You know, they are where you want to be. Go spend some time with them and see what they're doing. Before we get too far, though, I want to stop right there on acquiring new patients. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about that, but give us a few key points. What are some things, some strategies we can do to go out and find and bring those bring those people into our practice?
Now, you mentioned strategy. I'm going to tell you what the new patient pros do. And when I talk about pros, those are the men and women that produce gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs of new patients. They have multiple associates if they want to. They have multiple clinics if they want to. The best chiropractic marketers think this way. It's not their strategy. It's their commitment to their strategy. And let me tell you what I mean. I know a guy who does dinner workshops, and he loads up his clinic, and his associates do the same, and his other outlying offices, his satellite offices do the same with dinner workshops. I know another guy who does residential surveys, and he's built a string of clinics committed to residential surveys. I love spinal screenings. I love massage events. Anytime I can get outside the office in a group of people and have a conversation about health, number one, and spinal alignment, then my job is to learn how to make that as much fun as possible and get into the best population as possible, and then invite that person to come in and see me. Now, I'll give you one of my scripts from one of my screening things. Would you like that?
Yeah, it'd be great.
So if let's say I'm at a health fair, or I'm at a block party, or I'm at some type of festival, and I meet somebody, and maybe it's a SEMG screening, or an iPad screening, or a SAM screening, or something else, and I'll take a history. I'll find out what the problem is, And I might look at you and say, Dr. Day, if chiropractic could help you leave all this pain behind, if you could literally live a whole new life again, shouldn't you at least know about it? So I'm not twisting anybody's arm. I'm not begging. I'm going out with my marketing team. I'm having a ton of fun. And I might use the SAM machine. Some other doctors do dinner workshops. Other doctors do residential surveys, massage events. But at some point in time, I want to have a conversation with that person about their health, about how chiropractic can affect it. And then I'm going to ask this question: if you could feel better, and if chiropractic could do that for you, shouldn't you at least know? Now that opens the door. That's, again, where the patient asks for more. Yes, I should know, which gives you permission to explain your offer, which gives you permission after that to book an appointment. Now, there are people, and I mentioned this, the New Patient Academy, you can teach a simple script to somebody who's got a wonderful personality and teach them just a little bit about chiropractic, and they can go out and produce new patients like crazy by being in the community while the doctor's back in his or her office.
I'm just sitting here thinking about that, and one of the things I guess that I've seen happen, how do you prepare that person for, inevitably somebody raises their hand and they have a very specific health concern, and of course the doctor is the only one who can address that. So how do you train the people that are going out to handle those?
Dr. Day, that is an excellent question, and that's a doctor question, and Dr. Lloyd answers all of the doctor questions. Let's get you that appointment so that you can ask him that question yourself.
Yeah, that's a fairly easy way to handle it, and it absolutely makes sense. I mean, you watch any show, whether it's Dr. Oz or whoever, there's a disclaimer at the beginning saying this is general health advice and not specific to you, and I think that's probably easy enough to do to address as those questions come up in those group settings.
One of the things we have all of our new community outreach assistants do is when they're working for their clients is that they read through the testimony books. Almost everybody has a testimony book. The first day of work, they read 20, 30, 40, 50 testimonies. And the net result is, especially with the personality testing that we do and the people we hire, they end up putting the book down, walking up to the front desk and saying, "This is so cool." So if somebody asks a particular question like, can chiropractic help XYZ? I'm really not sure that's a doctor question, but you know what? That's why we do these events. Let's get your appointment with Dr. Lloyd so that you can ask Dr. Lloyd personally.
So let's say we go and we hire someone. I guess I have a couple of questions around that, but do we run an ad? Where do we find these people? And what do we call them? A marketing director? And I guess the follow-up to that is, what do we pay these folks?
Well, the first thing we do, we have a 7-step hiring process. And part of that hiring process is so that we can get the person who's temperamentally set up in order to do this. We're looking for somebody who's on their way up, somebody who has natural sales ability but may not know that, somebody who has a good self-image, somebody who can take rejection, and we test for all those things. And then what we do is we train them in a very, very simple program. Now, this is the thing, Dr. Day, that so many people make the mistake of doing, is that they'll give them 5 things to do. Well, that doesn't work. I give them one surefire program and train until we debug that program and they produce new patients. And then as soon as they start producing, which is if we work with them in the New Patient Academy, it's any place between 1 to 3 weeks where they actually start producing new patients. Then we know that they are trained and they can go out and they can set up events, do the events, bring the new patients back, help follow up on the new patients so that they can come in and literally pay for themselves in the first month that they work. But you also ask this very specific question: what do you pay? And you end up paying per hour. I don't believe in a bonus system for this position initially. Bonuses can tend to really scramble things up. Instead of throwing a bonus at it, we just make sure that we train and we lead and we manage.
Well, let's switch back to the advice you gave. You were kind enough to give some advice to the new grad or the new doc. Let's talk this time about the advice you would have, a single piece of advice or a series of action steps for the person who's been in practice a while and they maybe lost their chiro mojo and they are not clear anymore with their passion or their path or maybe even their purpose. What do you tell that person?
What do you want to be doing in 3 years if you had your way? What would you want this practice to look like? How many patient visits? And by the way, if the way that you take care of patients isn't enjoyable or isn't fun, then we need to change it. And we need to change it until it is fun. And if somebody doesn't want to make any changes and they don't want to have any fun, that's a challenge. But what really usually motivates or gets people's attention is when they come to one of our live trainings and they meet somebody. And I know my client's history, and so I can say, hey, Brian, I want you to come over and I want you to speak to Jason. Jason is a brand new guy here, and you guys have a real similar path. And I told him a little bit about you. And what happens is that Brian will say, I used to be just like you, man. I used to have this and this and this and think this and this and this. But I just started making small incremental changes and boom, the lights came on. And this is one of the things that I think I'm going to promise you that if you're seeing 160 or 180 or 200 patient visits a week, you probably need help. You need help, and you can get it just the way you want it from a good associate. You can get extra freedom. Chiropractors are masters at the 3-day or 4-day weekend vacation, and some haven't taken a full week off for years. You can have associates cover the practice and take great care of your patients, and then you can also make extra income. So I show them doctors who are working with happy associates, more time off than they've ever had, making more money than they've ever had. Their associates are the best paid associates in the industry, and the guys look at me and say, I can do this. So that's what I would say for the guy whose dreams are tarnished. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does. It really does. I think not everyone ends up in the same place when they start out as a chiropractor. And there are those who, for various different reasons, lose their focus or get stuck, if you will. And they really do need to take a fresh look at things and make a change and visualize where they want to be 3 years from now and work backwards from there.
And then you also, you may have coffee with your friends on Thursday, and everybody talks about how things are going to hell in a handbasket. You need to hang with people who are headed in the same direction, achieving success, trying new things, excited. I mean, you want your kids to hang around with good friends, who are getting good grades and doing good things in public service and going to good schools, because you want that influence to be on your kids. Well, I want chiropractors to hang around. I think 5-star management clients are some of the most wonderful people on the planet, but that's just me, of course, right? These are my kids, right? So you come, you see, these guys are wonderful, but they're no more wonderful than me. And the only difference is that they're doing different action steps and they see a different game, and they're putting together this associate practice where they get help, freedom, and extra money.
Well, let's switch gears from the specifics of success and let's get into just the general, more broad aspect of success in your own life. If you could push the reset button and go back to the beginning of your career, what would you do differently?
Oh, man. Oh, wow. I even take a look at my injury. I had a big practice. I was seeing 500 plus patient visits a week. I loved the practice. The practice loved me back, and then I had my crazy injury, and I was so downhearted. Then I decided that I was going to take this lemon and I would make lemonade. And I literally had to jump in this thing. So what would I have done different? I wouldn't have gotten injured. Now I have 100% completely recovered. You know what? I would have started my emphasis in 5-star of helping clinic directors mentor and develop and disciple and apprentice associates sooner, like I did. I literally lived the life that I want to live. I'm 68 years old. I weighed what I did in high school. I did 45 push-ups this morning. I try to eat right. I mean, I do believe that habits, good habits, good life. I don't know that I would make a bunch of changes. I'm kind of at a loss. It's been a long time since somebody asked me that. And I also don't believe in regret. I believe, my parents and my grandparents prayed for me as I was growing up, and I asked God to lead me. And if I run into a tough patch, then I need to walk by faith through that tough patch and do the best that I can. And it doesn't mean that I made a mistake, even though I make tons of mistakes, but it's still my job to walk by faith through that entire process. And that may sound hyper spiritual, but I really do believe that that's true.
Who are your personal heroes?
Well, I got to name Jesus at the top of the list. My wife is one of my heroes. That's kind of sounds strange, but she's courageous and she's talented and she's funny and she's cute. And there was also some of my heroes. I'm at 68, so some of my heroes are dead. Men like Bob Boardman and Elvin Smith and Leroy Imes, and different guys like that. So probably people that you've never heard of, but they just have incredible integrity, and they've been willing to give their entire life in order to make tough decisions so that integrity showed up.
Well, you mentioned push-ups and some other things that you do. Are there any other daily habits, affirmations, or rituals that you do that really help keep you on track and keep the mind, soul, and body, spirit all where they need to be?
Every weekday I get up at 4:10 in the morning. I don't have to get up and work out. All I have to do is get my feet on the floor. If I get my feet on the floor, I can stand up. If I can stand up, I get downstairs. I make my breakfast. I sit down, have a cup of coffee and 3 eggs. I go to the club, which opens up at 5:20. I do 36 minutes of cardio. I do another 9 exercises. By the time I get I watch webinars while I'm doing my cardio. I'm on a Stairmaster, and so I get 36 minutes of education. I'm constantly sending texts or emails to my virtual assistant on projects that I want to do. I just thought of something. I wish I were better organized. I'm pretty darn organized, but I wish I was better organized.
You and I share that. I'm always working to get more organized, and I'm in bed.
I'm in bed early, except for weekends when I do client training, and then we frequently have dinner with clients and socialize with them because we recruit nice people.
Well, we're almost out of time here for our interview today, but you've shared so much with us so far. Before we let you go, though, do you have a favorite book that you would like to recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, I do. It's called The E-Myth Revisited. The E-Myth Revisited is so great on so many different levels. Now, they've tried to make several different types of E-Myth And I think that the best one of the copy of all that series is the E-Myth Revisited. I also think that if you're going to develop associates, you can have a ton of fun being a mentor. There's a Christian book called The Lost Art of Discipleship by Leroy Imes, and it's about helping somebody in their spiritual development. There's so many parallels for helping a chiropractor on his or her professional development. I think that book is a good one as well. But E-Myth Revisited. I also think the Jane Nelson Positive Discipline for Children books are great. Everybody's 28-year-old associate is somebody's bratty kid plus 10 years.
I never thought of that, but I think you're right.
I take a look at all the mistakes that I made and all how naive I was, and I look in the rearview mirror and I just shudder at some of the mistakes I've made. And so I think that the wise person who understands that their associate wants to be successful, but is strong enough to hold them accountable, and is a student of mentorship and discipleship, is a person who's going to have a lot of fun developing associates, but also be super, super successful. The financial rewards are absolutely huge, but even bigger than that are the personal rewards of helping people and helping lots of patients and just having fun and doing it.
Well, you've given a lot of great advice over the years in business. What's the best business advice that you've ever received?
Oh, wow. Let's see if I can think of that one. Buy low, sell high. I've gone to different coaches before, and one time Chuck Gibson, and this was well over 30 years ago, maybe closer to 40. Chuck Gibson said to me, I called him with a problem. He says, "Noel, I've always thought you were a winner. Now we're going to find out, aren't we? Anything else?" I said, "No." In other words, it was on me. I had to work it out. I really had to work it out. You know what? Excuse me. I say this to every new chiropractor I start to coach: get out of debt as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Get out of debt as fast as you can. By God's grace and with hard work and dedication, commitment, I live debt free. I've got one mortgage on a rental that's left to be paid off. But that's probably the best business advice. And students, $200,000 in debt. Get out of debt as soon as possible.
Well, what's the best way for people to contact you to find out more about what it is that you do, the services you provide, any upcoming speaking dates you may have, that sort of thing?
Well, they can go to myfivestar.com. That's all spelled myfivestar.com. And from there, there's contact information on how to do that. It's a ton of fun for me to hop on the phone and to judge whether we're a good fit. I also do different webinars, things like that. Hop on our list, register for something that we do, get our emails, see if my 3.5-minute videos are consistent with what you think is important and you like my teaching, and then maybe we've got something to talk about.
Well, Dr. Noel Lloyd, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to spend with us and help sort of educate us and illuminate us on some of the things you've learned and you are teaching in your practices and in your career. Appreciate your time with us today.
I have had a ton of fun. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast at www.chirobusinessmojo.com.